What's going on YouTube? Kronos here, and welcome back to another PSO2 video. So today's video we're going to be going over how I deal with content droughts basically in any game, and how I'm dealing with the current content drought in PSO2 NGS. But before we jump into that, if you guys are new here, my name is Krono. I do content over here on YouTube daily. Would much appreciate a subscribe as we work towards that 10K mark by the end of the year. Well, let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, those who know me know my love for MMORPGs. Realistically, kind of almost all of them. I don't know why I really kind of get a thing for MMOs. I just kind of enjoy the progression systems, the path towards getting strong. I'm a really big fan of raid content, challenging myself, so on and so forth. Which begs the question, how the hell are you dealing with the lack of endgame content currently in PSO2 NGS? If that's kind of what you like to push yourself towards, what is there for you to do? Realistically, nothing. Actually, I'm in a phase of PSO2 NGS, or we're in a phase that I personally like to call a build phase. When I say a build phase, it's a phase where realistically there's not a lot of content for us to work on, but we can build up towards the content that will be coming, whether it be building your coffers, building up your fashion, cleaning things up, making sure you have like an actual system put in place for yourself. That way when new content does come out, you have that much less to deal with and you can just jump to exactly what you want. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've been in that build phase for a while now, actually ever since I capped out all of my jobs at 20, made, the weapon I'm going to be using moving forward. Yes, it's going to be double saber. Yes, I'm going to stick to fighter. I will play braver, but I'm going to stick to fighter for right now. And I will be playing double saber, even though I know technically out of the 3 weapon choices, it is the weakest, though it keeps up. So that's good enough for me. And technically has the strongest photon blast. So, it's got that going for it. Maybe it's a little bit of copium, but, not completely. But anyway, we've gotten off topic, but yeah, I've got my weapon, I've got, building up, I have my routes, I know how I'm going to be gathering stuff, I know how I'm going to be making gil, I know, gil, wow, we've already jumped ahead, how I'll be making Meseta, how I'll be working on different things. I have a system in place for myself, to the point where now, when I log into PSO2, my goals are very, very direct, they're very straightforward, and very easy for me to accomplish. Right now, all I have to really do is work on the event stuff, and then I'm basically good to go. I've got everything I want to have done, so when the next bit of content comes out, I can jump right into it head first and have as much fun as possible. Now, this always does bring up, people saying, I want to take my time, I want to enjoy the game, so on and so forth, but I personally don't have fun myself doing things that I could have done earlier and then forcing myself to have to do them later because I wanted to, quote, take my time. Now, yes, my time is going to go by much faster than yours is. However, I'm going to have a ton of fun during that time frame. Now, if you personally want to take your time as much as possible, going that slower is what's happy for you, or what works best for you, then I say go for it. But that does nothing but annoy me, and I don't have any fun with that process. So that's why I did things like, of course, build a bunch of weapons and units for leveling in NGS. I was able to play a bunch of classes and had a great time leveling. Granted, it wasn't as long as most people, but it was super fun, and I had a lot of fun time playing all the different classes and learning how much things had changed. That's why right now I'm building up tons of stuff. That way when, new weapons and new units come out, I can upgrade the ones I want almost instantly and be able to talk about them with you guys. Yes, I know I haven't talked about the new weapons. I do apologize. We're going to get around to that. But when those weapons and units come out, I can jump right on board and, have a good time with them. So all of that wraps back around to, dude, what the heck are you doing now that you've got all these things taken care of in PSO2? Well, did you guys know the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy 14 can be experienced all the way up to the expansion Heavensward for free, up to level 60? Yeah, I hit you guys with that meme. I play Final Fantasy 14, and I have played Final Fantasy 14 for an extremely long time, by the way. I raid in Final Fantasy 14. I have raided in Final Fantasy 14. I found a really good group that I'm actually really, really happy with. Went for my first ever week 1 clear and played a crap ton, and it was a great time. We got it, by the way. We got the week 1, which is super, super cool. And for those of you guys who don't know, a week 1 clear, basically raid content. If you guys are players of Destiny, let's put it that way. A week 1 clear is equivalent to like your day 1 clears on Destiny. Like a new raid boss will come out with, or actually 4 raid bosses will come out. It's a new tier is what they call it, where players will challenge the fights with very, basically no knowledge whatsoever. We have to figure it out as we go along and do our best to clear it within a certain time frame. The reason the week 1 clear is so important is the loot that you get from there is on a weekly lockout, meaning that as long as you get it in the week 1 clear, you can have some of the best gear in the game as soon as possible. While it's a ton of effort on that first week, it actually leaves a lot of room for us on the subsequent weeks to enjoy other parts of the game, or just, kick back, relax, and go back to what we usually do. For example, in my case, go back to playing PSO2 NGS. So if you guys have no idea what Final Fantasy 14 is, I'll give you just a quick synopsis. 14 is a Well, I'll say it's a story-driven MMORPG that takes place in the world of Eorzea. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy games, you'll know that they are very rarely all connected realistically story-wise. It's just most of the time there are like little things that will take place in the game that, you know, are references to other games. For example, I believe every single Final Fantasy has had a Cid. Most Final Fantasies have Biggs and Wedge, though those two characters actually also exist in Star Wars, which is funny enough. But regardless, it is a story-driven MMORPG that takes place in Eorzea. It is the standard, you know, healer, tank, DPS trinity sort of thing. So if you're familiar with World of Warcraft, kind of similar to that, but with a different style. Most people call it the Weeb World of Warcraft, but as someone who plays Weeb games, this game does not feel Weeb in the slightest. It's just a fantasy-driven game itself. So a little bit more medieval, some tech stuff, but like it goes back and forth really. Now, while we were all wrapped up in PSO2 and all of its content, and of course NGS's launch and everything like that, I was doing this thing called raid logging in Final Fantasy 14, where I would realistically just log in, do the top end raid content with my group, and then after we were finished for, you know, the day or finished for the week, I would just log out and I wouldn't log back in till we were back at doing that again. That's basically all I did in Final Fantasy 14, even though I absolutely love the game. That's all I was working on because my focus was shifted elsewhere. This is a pretty common thing for MMOs, to be perfectly honest, where the content that you're doing or the content you care about, you just do that content and then you don't worry about anything else. Now, Final Fantasy 14 has so much content in it overall. It is a very, very common thing for players to just do the content that they like. There's actually an entire video talking about the different types of players in Final Fantasy 14. You guys should check it out on YouTube. It's super, super funny. But anyway, there are types of players that only do specific types of content, some players that play all the time, some players that, you know, play for, you know, story bits, so on and so forth, and even some players that only play the free-to-play stuff and then don't play anything else. I completely lock themselves at a certain point of the game. It's crazy. I'm not even gonna go into it specifically, but it's really, really cool. You guys should check it out. But anyway, the developers of the game itself have mentioned multiple times that not all content is for everyone, and it is totally understandable for you to leave the game and come back when the content you're looking for is there. Now, this is a subscription-based MMORPG. It's a subscription-based game, meaning you have to pay them to play the game. Some people go free to play, but you have to pay them to play the game. And they were even telling you that, hey, look, if you unsub for a little while, go unsub, play something else, and come back when the content that you're looking for is here, which means they make a lot of content for a lot of different types of players. So right now, where I was doing the whole, you know, building phase in PSO2, I'm redoing that right now in Final Fantasy 14. Let me tell you, there's a lot for me to cover, doing things like my relic weapon, which is the equivalent to like every class's legendary weapon. Every character can play every single class similar to PSO2, so I've been leveling every job in the entire game, getting all my crafters taken care of, getting a bunch of stuff working on, and then of course building up money towards the next expansion that'll be coming out at the end of the year, Endwalker. And guess what I'm also going to do? I'm going to get a bunch of gear together to level up the new classes that are coming out. That way when I go to level those classes, I don't have to stop to gear up. The exact same thing I did in PSO2. Now, the difference is Final Fantasy's had a bit more experience with, you know, properly providing in-game content, because their release schedule has been much longer. To give you guys perspective, the last time that I had like major raid content was December of last year when we cleared it. Yeah, it is currently July. It's July. It's been months since we had major content for us to deal with. Now granted, that isn't just saying that's major content for the entire game. There have been other types of content that other players of course do. There's been relic stuff, there have been story stuff, things like that, but everything's been very delayed since the pandemic and everything else has been going on in the world. However, there are major things that raiders really like, end game players that really enjoy, that we haven't gotten any of it, and we won't be getting any of it until December again. It'll almost be a year since I raided, like hardcore raided again, which to think about that time frame in between is insane. So what was the whole point of this video, right? I've been rambling on for like 9 minutes. TLDR is when there's nothing for me to do in one game after I'm done prepping, I just play another one until there's something for me to do back in the original game. Right now, it's Final Fantasy 14. With me and my friends, we've joked about going back and playing Star Wars The Old Republic, a game that I absolutely adored because of the way they did story-driven content in groups. It was super fun, and I had a great time playing it. I'll be back on PSO2. I mean, I stream PSO2 as I usually do with the you know, the bits of information, the bits of things I have to work on, and I still bring you guys content every single day when it comes to PSO2. So yeah, we're still playing PSO2, but I'm also not jumping on any hype trains, guys. I've been there the whole time. I've actually shown on Twitter where I have played the entire time since 1.x. Granted, I don't have my 1.x character anymore, which makes me very sad, but I've got my 2.x character that I started right when the game popped back up, and I have been playing ever since then, which God, how long has it been? I had to actually Google it really quick, but 1.0 released back in 2011 and then shut down because of how bad it was. Well, I mean, we might talk about that on stream one day or something like that. You guys can check it out. But 1.0 was super, super terrible for Final Fantasy 14. It released in March, I believe, of 2011, shut down in 2012, and then re-released for 2.0 in 2013. And I've been playing it ever since. I think I quit once, and that was for like maybe 7 months. So if you guys are jumping on board the Final Fantasy 14 hype train, welcome to Weeb. It's actually a really, really fun time, and I'll be working on tons of stuff. So if you guys happen to have any questions, feel free to ask them. I have no problem with answering them. Played the game probably about as much as I've played PSO2, to be perfectly honest. Now, I don't feel like I'm as good at like some of the end game content as I am in PSO2. I mean, I've done pretty much everything, and I've been pushing myself as much as I possibly can, but I do feel like I do have quite a ways to go. Though there are tons of people that have tons of information about the game itself, because, it's not like PSO2 where it's just a few of us. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. As always, like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to keep up with more. Discord and Twitter are available for you guys to keep up with me. And now I guess I'll go ahead and mention it. I mentioned in the previous video, but I also added a coffee link. If you guys want to support me directly, you can use that, since not everyone goes over to Twitch to be able to support through that, via that method. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Peace out.